Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's Saturday the 18th of September and this is part of my daily updates. I was unable to vlog yesterday simply because I ran out of battery and we were out in the Shara, so there was no electricity supply to recharge it. I'm now back in Islamabad. Like I said, it's Saturday. If I go back to yesterday, inshallah, we started the morning by visiting the village where we met that little 9-year-old boy who I've recorded an interview with, and the video of which you'll see inshallah as well on the YouTube channel. And I recorded that video just to get more details about his condition and to get a greater understanding of exactly what it was he needed. It was also another opportunity to have a chat with the local people to find out again some of their needs and where they think we need to go from here. There was not much new in terms of what came forward from that encounter, but we were able to again take part in one of the medical clinics to help out a little bit and to see some of what's going on. There's a local NGO charity which had established a program there whereby, because a lot of these people are now out of work, their local factories have been flooded, the local industries have been completely destroyed. What they've started is a program whereby those people who are cleaning out their own houses and who are working on cleaning up the areas directly affected by the floods, they were being paid the daily wage, which was a real positive way of getting people off just doing nothing and then getting them actually out into work. Speaking to again some of the local NGOs, some of the biggest concerns they have is that you begin to institutionalize people, that when they come into some of these refugee camps they just simply become dependent and they lose the independence which they used to have. And so they're very, very keen on ensuring that although people are now without homes, without jobs, they don't lose that independence and they're still able to work, etc. And that's part of maintaining the dignity of some of these people who've been affected by the floods. As I've said before a number of times, these people are proud people, mashallah, as all of us are, and they want their independence. They don't want to be victims. And the worst thing we can do is start treating them as if they were victims, as if they were incapable of doing anything for themselves. What we desperately need to do is to equip them with the skills and with the material to start to rebuild their lives again. So that was yesterday morning where we went to this village. In the afternoon we went to a camp, an actual refugee camp. So we hadn't really been to that sort of venue before. We had been to these medical relief camps where we were able to see doctors in action, the sort of medications that were being delivered, the sort of conditions that were being treated. But we hadn't actually been to a refugee camp in and of itself. This camp was about an hour's drive away from the Shara in an area called Jarsada. And it was quite far away from other villages and other towns. And again, that camp, as I've said yesterday in my audio update, was exclusively reserved for those people who had completely lost everything in the floods. And even then there were queues of people still trying to get in but who couldn't because there just wasn't space. The camp housed approximately 50 families, each family on average consisting of about 5 people. And again, I've got some pictures and some video footage of that which hopefully I'll be able to compile in a document for you to have a look at. But the tents were completely basic. There were two very simple beds, and by beds I mean, you know, a wooden frame with some plastic across it. Nothing much more than that. There were no washing facilities per se, but on the other hand, there was clean running water installed by the local NGOs. There were areas to bathe, not bathe per se, but just to wash, although, like I said, there was no area to bathe formally, and some very basic toilets. And there was no real electricity, and there was a medical tent set up within that, which was just constantly full of people needing medication for all sorts of conditions. I spoke to the doctor there, who'd literally been working 7 days a week since the flood, and he was seeing on average 200 patients a day, which is a phenomenal workload. And he was talking about all the sorts of conditions they were seeing, and he mentioned just last week a child who'd come in suffering from what he had diagnosed as cerebral malaria, which is a potentially fatal condition. She wasn't admitted to hospital, she was just treated in the camp, and she was a young girl who I later on met, and she survived. So that was a success story. So people are making do very much with what they can. What really struck me was that this is now their home. This tent, very basic tent, no electricity, no real access to running water per se, in fairly crowded conditions, was now their home for an indefinite period. The NGO, the charity that was running it, was mentioning that they were planning to run it for approximately 3 months. And after that, they don't know what was going to happen. Obviously, finite resources, finite funds. Nobody really knows in terms of what the future is for these people. Again, speaking to them in regards to the flood waters, they said it came on very suddenly. It caught them completely unprepared. In a matter of a single hour, they say that the water rose from 3 feet to over 9 feet. It happened very, very quickly. So again, just absolute devastation. What's kind of come out speaking to a lot of these people across the different villages and different camps, I think, is a sense of complete shock and complete bewilderment. I just don't think it's quite settled in terms of exactly the scale of what's happened. And even for me, having spent a couple of days with them and in the area, again, it's still so hard to imagine just the quantity of water that rushed in over those few days. And I think over the next couple of weeks, couple of months, we're going to see more and more of these psychiatric conditions, if you like, around shock, post-traumatic stress of some sort or other, anxiety, depression, and those sorts of issues I think are going to become more and more profound. And that took us really most of the day, because when we finished at that refugee camp, this doctor insisted that we must come and see another one, which is being run by a separate charity. And when we went to see this camp, it wasn't actually a camp, it was a school. The school had approximately 69 classrooms, and it had over 4,000 people in that camp itself. And this was being replicated across 100 schools across the district. So it wasn't even a case of across Pakistan, across the district. So the school was completely overcrowded, the living conditions were terrible. Again, they had a medical facility there, which was completely overrun. And what was even more incredible was that in 2 days' time, that school had to be vacated because kids had to go back and start studying there. When I asked the NGO that was running the school where these people were going to go, he looked at me and almost just philosophically shrugged his shoulders and said, "We just don't know." And it's just phenomenal that people can be in such a desperate and dire situation. Again, I've recorded a piece of video footage from the director of that charity, who you'll be able to see for yourself, outline his concerns and his fears, and I filmed a little bit from that school. Every camp we've been to, we've had people just pulling and begging us to come to another camp, to come and see another condition, to come and see something even more desperate than the previous situation. And all we can really do is just look and shrug our shoulders and give them words of encouragement. They're expecting a lot from us, and obviously we're not going to be able to deliver. The scale of the disaster is significant. We've raised a very good amount of money considering the scale of the operation, but these people expect more from us. And I think, to be honest, we need to look at exactly how much more we can deliver over the following months. I don't think it's really feasible just to walk away from here as a one-off project and think we've done our bit. There's certainly much more to do. We're now back in Islamabad. Like I said, it's Saturday. In terms of spending money, we wanted to make sure that we were very accountable with the money we spent, and that the people who needed the medication most were getting it. We've had 2 consignments over approximately just under £2,000 worth of medication come up to the camps. As I've said previously, the medication, the quality of medication which was being delivered at these camps weren't of particularly high standards, and therefore they weren't particularly effective in treating some of the conditions that needed to be treated. The medication we bought, the doctors just had the biggest smile on their faces because it was of very good quality, and we hope it's going to be very effective, inshallah, in terms of alleviating some of the problems that are being faced. Our priority now, today, Saturday, not much happens in Pakistan over the weekend, as in every other place, every other country in the world. Our priority now is that the money we've got, we're going to start shifting medication in much larger bulks now to the 4 or 5 medical relief camps that we've established need it, and who we are confident that they have effective mechanisms in terms of delivering those drugs. We're also now, mashallah, in a position where we're going to look to establish 2 medical camps ourselves for the next 3 months. What that means, one is going to be a permanent camp, and the other is going to be a mobile clinic. What we found in terms of going to these various villages is that people just don't have the resources, the capabilities to get from their villages to these static medical camps, and therefore having having a medical relief camp isn't always the most effective solution to the problems that the people are facing. So we're going to have a mobile clinic which will actually go out and visit people, and we're going to have a static medical camp as well. We've identified the geographical locations, and I'll document all of that in the report when I get back. What that means is basically that long after I've gone on Monday, when I fly back to the UK inshallah, long after I've gone, this project will continue. So we're looking at now at this project continuing until at least December. All the money for these medical relief camps have been raised separately. So if you've donated money for medication, don't worry, like I said before, it's going to purely go on medication. So that's very positive. These medical relief camps will have one full-time doctor working in each of them, and 2 paramedical staffs working in each of them, and an administrator just to ensure smooth flow, etc., so on and so forth. And these people are going to be paid. What we've also realised is that voluntary work now has a limitation, and over a month after this disaster, that we're reaching that limit. They're in desperate need of doctors. Those doctors who've been volunteering need to go back, need to start earning some money, and so practically we're going to have to pay for their staff, which we haven't got the resources to do, so we're going to be looking to start that up. And that's all very exciting, and we'll keep you posted in terms of how things unfold in regards to that over the coming weeks and coming months. So that's all for today, inshallah. I'll probably post one more video tomorrow, just to conclude and sum things up. But thank you very much for all your support and for your dua. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.